After binging all of Black Clover, and then going into its extended hiatus last summer, I was to the point of begging for a new fantasy action shonen. It didn't take me long until I found a series that would get me hooked. Ragna Crimson is a manga series that has flown under the radar for a little while now. With an anime currently airing, I feel like it's time to shine some light on a really good fantasy action series that deserves some love. If I could describe the series at the surface level, it's like a mix of Black Clover and Attack on Titan. Similar to Attack on Titan only in its premise. We have humanity living under a constant threat of annihilation, not by titans, but by dragons. The dragon hunter Ragna embarks on a revenge-fueled quest to eliminate that threat once and for all. So basically Eren. Kind of interesting premise, but we've seen it before in other stories. Similar to Black Clover, in that it's a crazy fantasy action shonen with an overpowered, underpowered protagonist. What do I mean by overpowered, underpowered? Well, early in the story, the protagonist starts with a tremendous amount of power, and then, roughly, the story is about him figuring out how to use this power to his advantage in completing a certain goal. His goal being to kill all the dragons. Your generic class of monstrous entities that opposes our hero that we've seen before. The type of enemy in question doesn't matter. Whether it's gigantic titans or demons or whatever, the dragons in the story just exist to oppose the protagonist, and they were probably chosen as dragons just to be in line with the fantasy setting. What really drew me in wasn't the setting or the admittedly bland characters or the world. It was what the first chapter was and what it started to build up to. I feel as though this manga has an insanely cool inciting incident. Spoilers for the first chapter, but after you watch this video, I seriously recommend you go back and read it for yourself, and just see how well the first chapter does what it was trying to pull off. Hopefully this will get you as interested into the story as much as it did for me. So the setting, dragons, a bloodline of monstrous, magic beings existing since time immemorial. Mankind's natural predator, enemy to Sunlight and Silverine. A man walks towards one of these monsters, with his hands raised upwards. As the dragon shatters the ice, he says, "Must get stronger." In a world of dragons, Ragna and Leonosa are dragon hunters. Leonosa is a 12-year-old prodigy, with Ragna as her guardian. But in reality, he's not much of a fighter. He's just there to take care of her, do her laundry, give her baths, feed her, and take care of all the unnecessary stuff. To the others in that town, he's perceived as a burden and is belittled by the townsfolk. Leonosa doesn't care though. She likes Ragna and wants him to keep traveling with her as long as possible, and so she reveals her goal to everyone of becoming the strongest dragon hunter. And Ragna, despite his perceived lack of talent, pledges to stay right by her side. But as the chapter goes on, Ragna is haunted by nightmares. In the midst of their deepening connection, Ragna couldn't shape the foreboding thought that Leonosa could be the one who dies in his dream. Despite this, he resolves to stay faithfully by her side, committed to facing whatever challenges lay ahead. This compels Ragna to intensify his training, determined to be as formidable as Leonosa, to fight alongside her so that his nightmare won't come true. The manga illustrates Ragna's escalating anxiety and captures his worried expressions and the weight of his premonitions on his shoulders. The pacing of the panels feels claustrophobic, with a gradual rise in tension showing the readers Ragna's internal struggle and heightening the stakes of the impending threat. As dragons in the world begin to exhibit unusual behavior, news arrives that the neighboring cities have succumbed to dragon hordes. Ragna's nightmares intensify, and his resolve solidifies as he becomes singularly focused on protecting Leonosa. But alas, Ragna's premonitions come true. Dragons attack his city, and Leonosa goes face to face with the challengers. As he fights, it's obvious he can't do anything. He's still weak, no matter what he does. As the city grapples with the onslaught of a mysterious and bloodied humanoid, Ragna attempts to ambush this superior dragon, only to have his sword shattered on impact. Unconscious and cast into the city's river, Ragna experiences a haunting continuation of his nightmares. A future filled with loss and a relentless quest for revenge against dragons. Submerged in the river, Ragna delves deeper into these nightmarish memories, realizing they are fragments of his future self. This future self has become strong, over countless battles, but it is still heartbroken over his inability to save Leonosa from her death. Desperate, present Ragna pleads with his future self for that power, then only to be stabbed with a silver sword, with a man telling him this was all part of the plan. Awakened, Ragna unleashes newfound power, effortlessly exterminating the dragons around him. He sees visions of himself over the next 10 years, becoming stronger and stronger. This is what his future self went through. These are his future memories, and the superior dragon recognizes Ragna's strength and transforms into his ultimate dragon form, attempting to kill him in one attack. Yet Ragna freezes this superior dragon and the remaining with ease, leaving them in terror at the unbelievable turn of events. Ragna, fueled by his fusion with the silver sword, rises to the occasion and defeats this dragon, ultimately saving Leonosa and the city. It is revealed, however, that Ragna's future self sacrificed his own existence to empower his past self. The unique premise of a future self interfering to empower the present self adds complexity to a fantasy story, leaving readers engaged and anticipating the next chapter of Ragna. This is one of the similarities I saw with Attack on Titan, with future memories coming to play in the story. But it does it differently, in a really unique way. I love how the chapter subtly builds tension through Ragna's growing concern over Leonosa's death. The way the manga panels reflect Ragna's worry has a way of really getting under your skin. Also, I was genuinely surprised at the plot twist of Ragna's future self sacrificing his existence to empower his past self. It made for a really unique twist to what I thought would be a standard fantasy story. Leonosa's role in the story becomes less prominent after the initial chapters. She doesn't play a significant part until later in the series, where her purpose becomes more self-evident. Primarily, she serves as a catalyst for Ragna to embark on his adventures, motivating him to confront and overcome various challenges. There are a lot of other groups too in the story, like the Dragon Monarchs, the Argent Corps, and the Solarian Church. However, for now, I'll provide a brief introduction into the two main characters, as well as their primary enemies for the beginning of the series. The others are best to discover as you delve into the story yourself. My initial impression of Ragna was that he resembled a blank slate character, defined by intense anger and hidden potential. He's insanely strong, but has the handicap of not remembering his future abilities, or at least not being able to use them yet. But after sitting with this character for a little bit, I'm starting to get a better idea of what the author is trying to do with him. At the start, Ragna is a character shaped by a profound sense of inadequacy and a burden of guilt, stemming from his perceived weakness and self-imposed curse. His inclination to follow others and submit to their authority is a deep-seated insecurity rooted in past experiences that eroded his self-confidence. This trait stems from a history of disempowerment and trauma, fueling Ragna's belief in his own insufficiency. The notion of being cursed and attributing all misfortune to personal weaknesses unveils a character haunted by a profound self-blame and survival's guilt mentality. This mindset not only reflects Ragna's harsh self-judgment, but also hints at potential internal conflicts and struggles. The psychological weight he carries enforces him to view himself as a source of negativity and harm. But the shift in Ragna's purpose to dedicate himself to exterminating all the dragons without remorse puts him in a transformative trajectory. This newfound mission gives him a desire for redemption and a search for meaning to counterbalance his perceived weaknesses. Ragna is a character grappling with deep-seated issues of self-worth, guilt, and a quest for redemption, which doesn't go away after he gains his new purpose. The contradictions in his beliefs and actions create what I think is a rich and multifaceted protagonist, ripe for exploration and development throughout the rest of the narrative. Now, the deuteragonist of the story is not seen till a couple chapters into the series, and due to that fact, I won't spoil too much, but I'll say that they are a great foil to Ragna, with in many ways taking the role as antagonist towards him. Crimson is an enigmatic and complex character that embodies paradoxical traits that shape their narrative arc. Their strategic brilliance is born from past failures and creates a mastermind always one step ahead. They are indifferent to the plight of dragons and humans alike. Their ruthlessness is a utilitarian force, with ends justifying brutal means. Beyond strategic prowess, Crimson engages in psychological warfare, wanting to dismantle adversaries mentally and emotionally. They twist their words in layers of condensation, creating a linguistic hierarchy, which makes them really annoying to outwit. Yet beneath this calculated demeanor lies an inability to confront failure, a really humanizing flaw. They just ooze a sense of confidence and self-importance, but we see that their motivations are rooted in self-loathing and disdain for themselves and their enemies. Crimson's cursed with immortality, and truly thinks that the best possible solution is to kill all the dragons, along with himself. They're on a suicidal death march, but they mask it with their wit and intelligence. Crimson rebelled against the Dragon God and the rest of their kin for unknown reasons. Their background is steeped in mystery, and we don't get too much in the way of a backstory. Only once in a while though, when their facade cracks, that we get to see the real Crimson. Hints from the past that feel like forgotten memories. The dynamic of Ragna and Crimson is not really clear-cut either. They are each at each other's throats for the most part, and both have different ideas of getting to their end goal. Ragna wants to go off head first and kill without regards to plans or strategy. Crimson is the exact opposite, and that is entirely why Ragna joins them in the first place. Future Ragna was unable to kill the Dragon God and all the Dragon Monarchs, and he recognizes that with Crimson's help, they would have been able to accomplish this goal. Now together, they are better equipped to setting out to do this, but they don't see eye to eye, which results in a ton of interesting exchanges between them. It's funny watching Crimson trying to outsmart Ragna at every turn, only to have those plans fall flat just to the sheer stupidity and stubbornness of Ragna. Their interactions are great, and are a highlight of the story. I said in the beginning that the dragons weren't that interesting of an enemy, but they do enough in the series to distinguish themselves from just giant flying lizards. We see this most prominently in the Winged Bloodline, the major baddies for the first part of the series. The Dragon God established the Winged Bloodline as one of the primary groups among the 6 families of dragons. As for the roster of bad guys there, they're pretty interesting. They each have their own unique personalities that distinguishes themselves from each other. Each shonen has to have a rogues gallery like the Akatsuki or the Phantom Troop, and this one serves its purpose for the story. They're all for the most part written well, but some of them are resigned to the role of cannon fodder. Spoilers for chapter 6, but like no lie, the third strongest of this group gets killed fairly easily, and some of the others aren't done much justice as well. But characters like Wolte Kamui, Ultimatia, and Nebulum are all just so well written and multidimensional. They all get their time in the spotlight, especially Wolte Kamui. He's the GOAT, and Nebulum gives me Ukulele vibes, which is always just a plus. Ragna Crimson is the kind of story where there is a constant escalation of the scale of each battle, as it ramps up extremely fast and climaxes one of the most insane fights that you'll ever see. You know what I'm talking about if you read the manga. I think the purpose of this exponential escalation of the scale of battles is just to show how far the author can go with the absurdity of these fights. Then soon after this early part of the story, the author can just start to dial back the breakneck speed of the manga and turn it into a more modest pace. But you could sort of think of these first couple volumes as a prologue to the rest of the story, and again, like I said, just to show how far the author could go with the insanity of these fights. I'm about 3/4 into the manga, and just the choreography alone is akin to the heights of One Punch Man. I mean, it's that good. I feel like the exaggerated battles in shonen serve 2 purposes. One is just to simply be that they're really cool, and the other is to serve as a metaphor or symbol for the larger themes in the story. The escalation of battle represents personal struggles of our character as the emotional battles get more intense, as with the physical ones. It also shows the chaos inherent to the world the characters inhabit. The breakneck speed and absurdity of the initial battles are a commentary on the tropes and expectations of the action fantasy genre itself. By pushing these elements to the extreme, I think the author might be trying to make a statement about the nature of storytelling within this genre. There are a few other instances where I've seen an author start off really early in the series with one of their best fights, i.e. Record of Ragnarok, the Zeus vs. Adam, and then start to mellow it out soon after, with slowly building up later on. The rapid escalation evokes strong emotions from the audience. The roller coaster of intense battles create a sense of exhilaration, and then the shift to a more modest pace allows for emotional resonance and connections with the characters. This emotional roller coaster enhances the overall impact of the narrative, I think. By condensing significant world building and character development into these high-stake battles, the author can establish a solid foundation for the rest of the series. It also sets a standard for the level of action and creativity expected from subsequent conflicts. This creates anticipation and keeps the audience engaged, as they look forward to how the author will top or subvert the established norms. And when he does top it, the story becomes even more engaging. The initial action-packed phase aligns with a more shonen style approach, with intense battles and power scaling, while the subsequent, more modest pace introduces elements such as mystery, drama, and political intrigue, which you can definitely see right after this fight and with the introduction of the Argentum Corps. The initial escalation encourages reader engagement through speculation and theorizing about the world and characters. As the story shifts to a more modest pace, readers are given room to breathe before the author brings it right back up to the top. So yeah, I hope this video gives you a decent idea about the series and potentially makes you want to read it for yourself. I'm enjoying it a bunch, and I just picked up the anime, which is a pretty faithful adaptation of the original series. I highly recommend checking it out. It's a hidden gem that often goes unnoticed, despite its pretty exceptional qualities. I would easily rate it a 7 out of 10 for now, and depending on how it turns out, can make the rating go even higher. Also, the anime has just ended its first concours, so the second will start in about mid-January. So hopefully this can give you more incentive to read ahead. Anyways guys, I'm heading out. Thanks for watching the video. I had a lot of fun making this one, and I'm planning on making more in the future. Content will usually focus around what I'm interested in at the moment, so we'll see some more stuff on video games, manga, anime, movies, whatever I'm feeling up to. Also, if you guys want to see something more specifically, I'm totally down to take suggestions. I'm not just going to do analysis videos, but that's what's mainly going to be here for the most part. Also, I know my audio sucks right now. It sounds like a McDonald's drive-thru speaker, and I'm working on that. I just bought a mic, so hopefully the quality will be better for you guys in the next video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you later.